what are your, what do you think is the best thing as far as for people involved in a relationship when there are arguments, I can't read this, trying to deal with a situation that is toxic?
Okay, so
Yes.
so let me just deal with this real quick. Conflict in relationship
My bad.
is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter. Conflict is ubiquitous. This is why conflict management folk or conflict resolution folk changed the name from conflict resolution to conflict management. Conflict is like revolving debt on a credit card. You manage the debt unless you got the bread to pay it all the way off. The conflict, we've been taught that your relationships aren't supposed to be conflictual, but through conflict is how you grow up. This is how you show up.
Yes.
Meaning, you know what? I'm not a very good listener. Conflict will put you directly face to face with your non-listening ass. Now, you can take two directions. You can go, let me blame shift. So you don't be listening. You don't be paying attention to when you be cutting me off. Right? Right? So conflict in relationships puts you face to face with what you need to work on. But because you're trying to prove a point, because you've chosen the path of being right over the path of getting in alignment, what is misaligned with us, which creates this conflict? No, I'm right becomes the pursuit. And when you try to be right, sure, you could be right, but you're going to be unhappy. You're going to be lonely. You're not going to be in alignment with another person. Do you understand what I'm saying?
We actually had the the question posed on the show. You know what I'm saying? I'd love for you to, speak on this a little bit.
And again, we gotta remember this. How are you defining toxicity? You got a lot of people out there that are having a hard time and will fuck around and say, I'm depressed. Don't say you're depressed. You haven't been clinically diagnosed with depression. Oftentimes, conflict manifests in your relationship and you will label it as toxic. When in actuality, what it is an indicator light, like that in your car that says, time to change your oil.
I heard, like, especially females, in the beginning, they like to say things like, I'm an empath, I'm bipolar. They put these things out, so you kind of give them a pass on when you have to go through conflict.
Right. Here's the thing, dating an empath. Now, a lot of people are trying to say they're empathic, right? Oh, I feel everything. I'm in tune and I feel everything. Really? Do you sense and feel when you're wrong?
Whoa, please repeat that.
Right? Do you sense and feel when you're wrong? Empath doesn't give you a coupon that says you're right automatically because you feel everything. You could be feeling your insecurities instead of your intuition. Your intuition might be underdeveloped and your insecurities might be overdeveloped. So what happens when you do the depression test? There is an actual test out there for depression. A person who has depression projects what other people may think or feel about them. It's an interview test. You have a person with depression, you have another person who doesn't have depression, you bring them into an interviewer. You bring them in together. Then you ask the person with depression to leave. The person with depression will assume that they lost the job. So now, are you an empath or are you projecting insecurities?
Wow. That's huge, because I feel like a lot of women, you know what I'm saying, use their feelings to justify, you know, like you were speaking, and I was going to ask you a question, like, you know, how important is it to be right? You know what I mean? There's so many people that, you know what I mean, they'll be like, yo, I have, you know what I mean, being right is more important than
Right.
having a healthy relationship.
Ego.
Being right is more it is more important than having a healthy family, children,
Right.
and everything else. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's how you know you're dealing with a spiritual child.
Mm.
And it's not your job to grow them up. I call a lot of women project hoes. Why? Because they like project men, so they can build up. They need a project to build up. You have prostituted your spirituality for some type of momentary satisfaction for building a man up that's going to lose value once he gets to a certain level where he don't need you no more. You're a project hoe.
And that's a fear that some spiritual women have, is that we are the project hoe. We are the people that build that, and we also need to look at ourselves. I think that whole idea of self alignment and understanding is important, and I'd like you to emphasize on that for women like me, where
So I'll go deeper for you, Sunshine. Let me tell you, you cannot call yourself spiritual if there's fear, if there's grudges, if there's
No faith.
You can't claim spirituality. You got to stop prostituting the word spirituality like God and love have been prostituted. These are terms. Oh, I love you. No, you don't. You're already plotting your escape. You're not really spiritual.
right.
You understand? If you
Somebody give me a
spiritual,
drink.
if you're spiritual, you're content with who you are. You're at peace with everything and that's a high level of consciousness. This is what I'm concerned about. Spiritual people don't talk like that. They're not concerned. You know why? Because they're at peace. They have found the axis of their spirit, and they understand different people are at different levels of development, and it's not my responsibility to help them understand.
Right.
It's just that simple.